Our second speaker. So based in New York, Mayan Toledano has been building a reputation in recent years for her blended photography and film practice. Her work focuses on gender, gay culture, the female body, intimacy, and relationships, and has been featured in the likes of the New York Times, Vogue, and ID, to name just a few. We're really excited to have Mayan joining us today to give us an insight into her creative process. Mayan, you can turn your audio and video on now, please. Say hello.
Hi.
Hi there. How are you?
From my sunny space.
Yeah, it's very, very sunny there. You've literally just come back from LA, right? Like a flying trip to LA.
Yeah, I flew in this morning on a red eye.
Okay, well, listen, thanks very much for joining us despite the travel. I'm going to let you kind of share your screen now and take it away with your talk. Just a reminder to everyone else that, while Mayan's talking, if you do have any questions, then please do put them in the chat and I'll try and get around to them afterwards. That looks great. Over to you, Mayan.
Hi, so I'm Mayan. I'm a photographer and a filmmaker. I went into both fields actually after being a very frustrated fashion design student. I went to fashion school for 4 years, which there I think I really realized how harming the portrayal of women is. And I kept asking questions about it and like trying to do something different. It wasn't super accepted then, but I took that into picking up a camera and kind of decided that I'm going to create the photos that I was hoping to see. And rather than being inspired by beauty only, which is what I used to see a lot, I wanted to be inspired by stories. So most of my work, I really try to follow a story and highlight someone and connect with them. So the images that I create, I try to do something that is longer lasting. So even if it's a product that I have to sell, or like this mix of images is kind of like documentary, some of it is personal project, some of this is advertisement and fashion, but no matter what the purpose of the project is, I try to find something more honest to do with the subject and give them enough space so that collaboratively we can tell a story. And for this evening, I chose to focus on two projects that kind of take up most of my time and brain space this year. The first one is called No Mames. It's a project I started in Mexico City last year. Mexico has been a creative home for me for the past 3-4 years, and I kept going back there and going back there, and then I realized I really have a community there to work with, and I wanted to highlight the queer community, creatives and artists and what they do. And the images that we ended up creating were a mix of something very personal, as they let me into their personal spaces and bedrooms and homes, but also alongside we would always create a fantasy version of themselves. So it would be a hybrid of how they see themselves, how I see them, and how their work comes into the visual portrayal of themselves. So all of these images are from last year. And then actually just before LA, I was in Mexico City shooting another portion of this project, which is here. This is like a preview. I haven't even edited these yet. This is the last portion of the project that will also go into a book. And the reason I want this to have a physical existence also in a book is because I think the book can help create funds that will go back to the community, which is something that's really important to me. And it will actually be my first book ever that I made. So yeah, this is the first project. And then my second one that I want to talk about is a film that I'm working on, which will also be my first film. This year is, with all the confusion, it's also somehow been a year for beginnings. And this started in mind as a short film, but the more I worked on it, I realized it's a feature. And this is about a woman called Smodar, who's from my hometown. It's a little town in the north of Israel. And growing up in a small town, obviously a woman with her style and significance, everyone knows her, but not everyone knows her story. and I wanted to highlight her. And she has this very complicated relationship to men and to her family, but she's also this fab woman in how she carries herself, and she's kind of a hero of her own world. So she's the character, and I have a little teaser here that I can share. The film is not ready yet.
אחד בקריית אתא.
לא יודעת, אחד חרא. מי קרא לי? לברד לא הלכתי, בבקשה, מרוב שהוא זה. את רואה? שהוא השכיח אותי. טוב שהיא קראה לי. את יודעת, קיבלתי ממנו הקריזה, לברד מלמטה, מהגבייה. טוב שקראתי, אני חייבת לברד, מי זה הדבר הזה? הוא אומר, לא רשמתי שם פה? מה זה הריח הזה? בא לי למות. לא שיהיה לך למתכון, בגללך אני לא ברצינות. אבל אני 3 ימים לא ישנה. 3 ימים אני לא ישנה. מה? אז למה אתה עושה דווקא בערב חג? מזל דלי סמרטוט, מותק. לא יודעת שמזל דלי זה סמרטוט? זה פה, בביידות, ופה מה זה? מודד את הגודל. 40 שנה בקבר, אין אמונה בגבר. זוהי אהבה שאין בה היגיון, זוהי אהבה שתיגמר בביזיון. אני לא יכולה לנשום, הרי זה שיגעון מחניק לי בגרון. אתה ראשון היית ותהיה האחרון. סיוט כזה עולה כל דמיון, בוא ביחד נעצור את השעון. זוהי אהבה שאין בה היגיון, זוהי אהבה שתיגמר בביזיון. אני לא יכולה לנשום, הרי זה שיגעון מחניק לי בגרון. אתה ראשון היית ותהיה האחרון. גבר זה זונה. כולם אותו שטנץ, באו מאותה אימא. כאילו אותה אימא ילדה אותם. כל הגברים זונות.
Thanks very much, Mayan. That was great. I guess not the best way of viewing video content like that. So maybe could you tell us where people can see that?
Oh, it's not ready yet. This is just a teaser, but I think I have it on my website maybe, but I can also share a link if to the Nicer Tuesdays website.
Fantastic. Yeah, that would be absolutely great. Sorry, were you finished? I jumped in. I thought you were.
Yeah.
You were done. Okay. If you could stop sharing your screen now, we've got a load of questions come in from the audience, which is fantastic. First question comes from Noam, who says, "How do you edit your work when you finish a project? Do you work with an editor?" I guess this could be either your photography work or your film work, but
for photos, I normally edit myself, and for video, I work with editors. Yeah, I actually have a really hard time focusing on video editing. Like, it's very easy for me to imagine and put things together in my mind, but the technicality of Premiere, I just get lost.
I mean, it's one of my questions actually was going to be, you know, how have you found that transition from, you know, being a photographer to being a filmmaker? I guess you've kind of been both, you know, now for a long time. I kind of mentioned that blended practice at the beginning, but how have you found that? I mean, I guess editing is one part of it, but there's obviously lots more.
I think it always came together for me, and it was really the thing about telling stories. So in photos or in video, since it's always trying to find a story, then I do it almost in the same way. It's so natural. Like the picture will be more than just a two-dimensional thing for me, or it will be a series that tells a story. So it always came together. I can't really say that one thing started it.
Yeah, sure. Marley asks, it seems there's a continuous color scheme you work in. Is that led by the mediums you work with, or is that kind of, yeah, an aesthetic that you choose and kind of tweak everything to fit around that aesthetic?
I think it's a combination of colors that I'm attracted to. But also I shoot everything on film. So even the film that I'm working on, it's shot on 16 millimeter. So it really resembles the pictures that I take on 35 millimeter and 120. So everything, it has the same texture. But yeah, definitely the colors is something, even being attracted to a person like Smadar is like, she wears all this vibrant color and I'm just like, she is a film, even without me having the camera next to her.
Linda asked a really interesting question, which was, yeah, definitely visible in all of your work, particularly your portraiture work, potentially. You seem to get intimately close to the people you portray. Why do you think they let you come close, and how does that leave you feeling? Very interesting question.
You know, sometimes it's very hard for me at the end of shoots because sometimes I get so connected and it's so emotional that it's hard to say goodbye, and I always want things to be longer lasting, which is why I tend to go back and shoot the same people. I never want things to be a transaction or just like a quick image. I want it to be a long story. Like I can go back and shoot someone for years and it will never end. I I I work on making space for the people that I shoot. I never want it to be like, I have an idea, let's execute it. I come in with the openness of whatever they want to bring, how they like to see themselves. And I also work with smaller cameras, even like phone cameras, and see how they portray themselves in selfies and ask them to do it while we're shooting so that I can see best how they see themselves, and we can connect over that and find the best version to then put out there. It never comes from, I think that an image is created with two people or a whole group of people, depending on the team that I work with, but it's never my image. So when I have that in mind, I already create the space for the people. So I think that's why people open up, and that's why I'm not afraid to come so close, because I'm also being vulnerable at the same time.
That's a great insight into your process. Yeah, thanks so much. Mayan, we're going to have to leave it there. I'm sure you also probably need a sleep by now, but thank you so much for joining us after the red eye. And yeah, really appreciate that talk. And I guess as well, obviously not the best way of seeing video content like that, but Smadar, everyone look out for that. It's going to be fantastic. Yeah.